Today on Earth Focus, combat veterans turn to small farming. Dulanie Ellis on her new film, Ground Operations, coming up on Earth Focus.
It's important to me that war doesn't define who I am. I don't want to spend the rest of my life just being a guy who fought in the war in Iraq.
In November, we were ordered to once again hit Fallujah, and that was just complete chaos. Most reporters call it, 6 days in Fallujah. For most of us, it was more like 3 to 4 weeks of intense combat. And by the time we were done, we had lost 33 Marines, and the city was in bad shape. It was pretty much destroyed.
We have a film. We like to say that in a world full of problems, Ground Operations is a story about solutions. We have a lot of veterans coming back, both from Iraq, who've been here for a while, and from Afghanistan, who are coming home now. PTSD often doesn't show up right away. It can be a year or two or more before it really starts to show up.
You're always on alert. You're thinking of the worst scenarios that are going to happen. And
I was in Home B, and we were going through the town, and we had snipers on the building. They were firing at us, and bombs were blowing up everywhere. And a mortar came in, and it blew up the same side of the door that I was on, and I was injured from that. And I took shrapnel to my head and to my legs. I was scared like anybody would be. I didn't want to die there. I hadn't seen my family for 15, 16 months. And I looked up and I started praying. I said, Lord, if you get me home to see my family at least just one more time, I told him, I said, I promise I will make my life worth saving. I'll go back and I'll create something so great that helps so many other people and to give back to other people.
So many of them just get disgusted with the system and say, heck with it, I can't get any help from the VA, and that's how they end up homeless, or that's how they end up suicidal, or all of these negative things that happen to these folks because the system is so broken.
I know a handful of guys who survived the war only to shoot themselves in the head since they've been back.
Veterans need real options when they're coming back. They don't just need a program and some pamphlets or a little bit of counseling. They need options that are going to allow them to take care of their families, to pay their bills, and to start a new life.
The Veterans Affairs is supposed to pick up where the Defense Department leaves off, but there's no transition program really within the Veteran Affairs.
One of the things that's the hardest for the vets when they come back is they've been a part of a unit, a really tight unit, all on the same mission. And when they come home and they don't have a mission and they don't have a unit, that's a lot what leads to the isolation, which then can lead to the drug and alcohol abuse, which then very often leads to suicide. And what I have found from the veterans I've interviewed is that they really had to seek their own salvation and find their own way back into what we would call civilization, the civilian world. And there's something about farming and working with the soil and working with living plants and with livestock, animals, that after you've been in a culture of death and war, to be in the culture of life and sustaining and creating life is deeply healing.
I'm not ashamed of my service or what happened in Iraq, but I learned that when working with living things, you become a nurturer instead of a destroyer.
The thing about it is, we come out here, I'm working outside in fresh air. I don't care how I felt last night or how good I didn't sleep last night because of issues that I have. And, you know, I come here, work all day, I feel like $1 million.
I was on medications, so many medications that I was able to come off, like blood pressure medications, and some of the PTSD meds, I could lower some of those meds. I actually saw my cognitive skills getting better. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. This is working for me, and so many guys come back. Why can't this work for them? And this is where we got the first farm started with the Veterans Farm.
What's really healing is, number one, a job, but number two, doing something that's needed, doing something that's necessary, doing something that, you know, having a new mission, having a new purpose.
In America, only 1% of people farm and only 1% of people go into the military. So most of us really don't know veterans, and most of us don't really know farmers.
We both wanted to start farms, and we decided we should just try to start a farm together. And, you know, people kind of cautioned us against, you know, being business partners and being in a relationship together, but so far so good. So, you know, it ended up being really wonderful.
We're a small farm, which means that we can really put in a lot of thought into the quality of our produce, more so than grocery stores.
You know, farming is not for the faint of heart, and we're lucky that they're stepping up to take over our food system, those who are, because they just don't take no for an answer. They are mission-driven people, and so if there are obstacles that come up, well, those are just obstacles to overcome on the mission. So an example of that would be a young man in Los Angeles, D'Artagnan Scorza.
The military helped me build, I believe, the skills that were necessary to be effective. When I returned from the military, I recognized that I had the ability to create change in my own community. We have 25 fast food restaurants in a square mile right here on Crenshaw and Century, which is just 3 blocks from this high school. But very few supermarkets in and throughout the city, and I think we're seeing that trend around the country in multiple communities.
And when he came home, he got his PhD at UCLA. He went back to the high school that he had attended in Inglewood and started working with the young students there and said, well, what do you want to do in the community? And they all said, we want to grow food.
As an organization, we created an initiative called 100 Seeds of Change, which is our commitment to building 100 community school and home gardens in and throughout the city of Inglewood and South Bay. The goal of that is to build a local food system and to build local production.
What are we doing today, Kia?
Oh, no. We're giving away fruit trees to the community.
Today we're giving 1,000 trees to 1,000 families. Our youth are committed to eliminating our community's designation as a food desert, and it's important that we provide these fruit trees as food assets so people can grow food for themselves. The community can begin to feed itself. Say trees!
Trees!
All right, high five.
We're just darn lucky. We've got somebody who's stepping up. We're losing half of our farmers in the next 10 years to retirement. We need someone to step up, and there are very few people, especially in this country, who are willing to really do that kind of hard work. But veterans are. And so the tagline for our film is America needs 1 million new farmers. Veterans want the job. So let's help them.
The health of human beings has to be part of our national security. We can empower vets to be in organic, sustainable agriculture. What a great way to do something that's very worthwhile, to be in a market that is growing. I mean, you can be successful in this.
I think it's an incredible marriage of a need for veterans to be continuing to improve American national security and a need for America to develop a nationally secure food system. So marrying those two together is just an unbelievably brilliant double solution to two very disparate problems.
The vets that are coming back, turning their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, they are showing us, along with many others, that it is possible to create a fair food system, and they're doing it.
I really see in these veterans not just farmers, but leaders of the farmers, leaders of this next generation of farmers. They're articulate, they're focused, they're extremely entrepreneurial. They've taken on the military and they're taking on agriculture. They're taking on the 2 hardest things in our society, and they're not even 30 years old. They're amazing young men and women.
I'm in such a better mood. I feel as though I have a goal. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
I've come to the conclusion that that's exactly it. I've sort of found some peace and contentment, and it's been so long since I've had it that it felt foreign to me, you know?
In 100 years from now, we look back at these times, there's going to be so profound things that are said about Americans living right now. And hopefully they say good things, and I want to be part of that.
At this point, maybe I've brainwashed myself, but at this point, I can't even imagine anything more important than growing food.
This is it. Teach these guys how to farm. They can feed themselves, they can feed the community, they can feed their family, they can have a sustainable life through sustainable agriculture.
To transition from a battlefield to a farm field is almost makes more sense than transitioning into like Dilbert's cubicle or a classroom of 18-year-old kids who have never seen anything but, you know, reality TV, you know, and when you've gone out and seen the world and had your friends die in your arms and you're coming home and you're 26 years old and you're looking for where is my place in this life, we feel like this is a place, you know, where you could take all those things that you brought into the military, your strength, your bravery, your ability to stand up when you're knocked down, your sense of service, your sense of sacrifice, and your just willingness to carry the world on your shoulders.
Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.